Mr. Comey wrote the memo detailing his conversation with the president immediately after the meeting, which took place the day after Mr. Flynn resigned, according to two people who read the memo. It was part of a paper trail Mr. Comey created documenting what he perceived as the president's improper efforts to influence a continuing investigation. Wow! And he sat on it for 2.5 months. If the FBI director thought the president of the United States was trying to impede an investigation, why did he sit on it for 2.5 months? This is the $64,000 question, which Mr. Chaffetz forgot to ask. Mr. Comey shared the existence of the memo with senior FBI officials and close associates. The New York Times has not viewed a copy of the memo, which is unclassified, but one of Mr. Comey's associates read parts of it to a Times reporter. Well, I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go, Mr. Trump told Comey, according to the memo. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go. That's not an order or a directive to do anything. Even if it was, again, it's not the investigation involving Trump World. Trump World, it involves Flynn. Mr. Trump told Comey, and this is all from Flynn's self-serving CYA notes that he sat on for 2.5 months. Trump told Comey that Flynn had done nothing wrong, according to the memo. Mr. Comey did not say anything to Mr. Trump about curtailing the investigation, replying only, I agree he's a good guy. So here you have a guy after him. I said, I agree he's a good guy, and blah, blah, blah. See, Comey is a long-time prosecutor, so he knows that he's trying to create potential evidence if he needs it in a particular scenario. And he's creating, and they call these contemporaneous notes. They are really self-serving. Contemporaneous notes should be a third party, as an example, taking notes, that sort of thing. But that said, he sat on it. In a statement, the White House denied the version of events in the memo. While the president has repeatedly expressed his view that General Flynn is a decent man who served and protected our country, the president has never asked Mr. Comey or anyone else to end any investigation, including any investigation involving General Flynn. The president has the utmost respect for our law enforcement agencies and all investigations. This is not a truthful or accurate portrayal of the conversation between the president and Mr. Comey. So Mr. Comey, having been in many, many courtrooms as a former prosecutor, writes his memo, shows it to his senior staff. Senior staff can then testify, too, before Congress. Oh, he showed it to us. He was very concerned about it. Oh, okay, very concerned. And you, too, didn't bring it up to this committee at the time. Why is that? And Mr. Comey, they'll have some phony spin relates to it, but this is the real Achilles heel of this. And even more, again, he's revealed that he has many, many, many memos. Well, go get them. Get all the memos. Who else did he write memos about? Meanwhile, we have a montage. The media can't stop asking Democrat guests if they're ready to impeach Trump. Impeach him for what? I don't know. Go.
Welcome back. You're watching MSNBC. I'm Stephanie Rule. The calls are growing for the ouster of President Trump. Another member of Congress wants him impeached.
Is that potentially impeachable if it's an obstruction of justice?
I think we're going to have to look into it a little bit further.
You were saying that this could lead down the road to impeachment, but we weren't anywhere near that yet. Does this breaking news tonight change your view on that?
Are we getting closer and closer to the possibility of yet another impeachment process?
Reluctantly, Wolf, I have to say yes.
Is it an impeachable offense if, in fact, the president obstructed justice?
So in terms of impeachment, are you taking action, working with
Al Green, everybody. Never heard of it, but there's Al Green. Go ahead.
Or doing anything that would actually move that agenda forward?
Do you harbor any hopes that you will find a conservative legal mind to match your desire to proceed with impeachment?
I think he can be looked at and perhaps even charged with obstruction of justice. I think that...
So you mean impeachment proceedings?
I beg your pardon?
You mean impeachment proceedings? Impeachment originates in the House. House leadership and the Republican Party has shown no interest in that and seems like it's the furthest thing from their mind. You think that's going to change?
What do you think of this impeachment possibility? What's more needed to prove obstruction of justice than the president fires the guy coming after him after asking him to drop the case? What more do you need?
Is that impeachment is the remedy. I mean, the president can't...
It's the only remedy.
Yeah.
There's growing talk, at least, about impeachment within your party. You have Congresswoman Maxine Waters, you have Congressman Al Green, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, all talking about impeachment for this president.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. How the media are pushing this, and the Democrats, and everybody knows who's sensible, that they're working together. This is a political, phony scandal, all these scandals, one after another. Maybe tonight there'll be another one, tomorrow there'll be another one, and people, oh, that's enough, we can't take it anymore. Oh, we can't take it anymore. Well, I want to remind you a little bit about J. Edgar Hoover. Now, this PBS bit is very partisan, it's very pro-Kennedy, and of course the Kennedys did some things that were truly horrific and dangerous and threatened our national security, the way they conducted themselves, and they were susceptible to blackmail. And being susceptible to blackmail, J. Edgar Hoover, former FBI director, the longest-serving FBI director, really the first. I want you to listen to this soundbite from PBS. Again, understanding its bias, but still that's not the point. Let's take a look at this. Go ahead.
This is Tony Lewis taping with Bob Kennedy.
Let's just stop there. Tony Lewis was a ultra-left-wing columnist, had been a reporter at the New York Times, very, very close to the Kennedys, very, very close to the Democrat Party. Go ahead.
Why don't we talk now about the relationship with Mr. Hoover and the FBI?
The relationship between Bobby and Hoover could be summarized in a word: blackmail.
Do you now think that Mr. Hoover is a dangerous person, or just nasty?
No, I think he's dangerous.
Did you ever have this feeling that he knew a very great deal about you, personally?
I suppose every month he'd send somebody around to give information on a member of my family or myself so that it would be clear that he was on top of all of these things and received all of this information. I really deferred to him. I made a real effort because I knew that he didn't like me. He is rather a psycho, and I used to keep his ego up. We used to arrange for him every 2 or 3 months, go over and have lunch alone with the president. I made a fuss over him.
When I say blackmail, I had in mind also Hoover's knowledge of President Kennedy's trysts, shall we say. And he, I think, made it very plain to Robert Kennedy that he knew all about it. And Kennedy knew that Hoover would not hesitate to use it against his brother.
I remember one occasion he said that my brother and I had a group of girls on the 12th floor of the LaSalle Hotel, and that the president used to go over there once a week and have the place surrounded by Secret Service people and then go up and have assignations. And a lot of it was so far-fetched. I mean, it was ridiculous on the face of it.
We do know from other congressmen and senators that have been through this that he'd always say, "Don't worry, I know about it, but you're okay." I think it was subtle blackmail.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't like the fact that we had an FBI director who would make memos after his meetings that were self-serving and that I suspect put him in a positive light and the person he's talking to in a negative light. I mean, I have to say, when you're sitting down with the FBI director, if you're the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, the President, the Vice President, a member of Congress, you have every right to expect that he's not going to run back and write a CYA memo about your meeting and so forth. That in fact, if he thinks you've committed an offense or done something unethical or you've imperiled an investigation, he doesn't need a memo. He takes immediate steps to address it, to raise it with Congress, to resign, to do whatever you need to do. Now, as Chief of Staff to an Attorney General, I never ran back to my office and took notes after I spoke to my Attorney General. I never ran back to my office and took notes after I spoke to an Assistant Attorney General, an Associate Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, the Director of the FBI, the Director of the DEA, you name it. I never did that. If I thought something horrible or untoward was going on, I would have said it and resigned. or there are other ways you can take actions. You don't paper the situation like you're some low-level employee getting ready to bring some kind of a lawsuit under some personnel policy. You're the director of the FBI. And if you believe the President of the United States said something to you that would imperil an investigation, or you believe you were threatened, you don't wait 2.5 months, a couple of weeks after you're fired unceremoniously, to get back at him and have your surrogates read it to the New York Times. Which also suggests we have an FBI director who did a lot of leaking. Not surprisingly, the New York Times and the Washington Post seem to be the source of a lot of these leaks.